Okay, prepare yourselves, everybody. Incoming! Ta-ta-da-da! Ha! New Teching unlocked. Hello, everyone. I'm Game Show Host Teching. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Who wants to win fabulous prizes and spin the Wheel of Warlords? Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, it landed on Doflamingo. Sorry, bankrupt. Okay. No, there's an actual reason why I'm wearing this ridiculous golden sequin jacket. I didn't get it just for the purposes of this intro. This weekend at Techo in Pittsburgh, anime convention, I am going to be hosting a One Piece trivia panel. I'm gonna be an actual game show host. I'm so excited. I've always wanted to be a game show host. Top 3 dream jobs: YouTuber, game show host, late night talk show host. Living the dream. Okay, so all the relevant information will be in the description below. It'll be Saturday, July 20th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Panel 3, I think that's where they're putting all the game shows at Techo in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. If you're available, if you're in the area, come on down, say hi. I'm giving out fabulous prizes. It's gonna be in like a bar trivia format. Tap artist, phenomenal, made this cool little form sheet thing. Yeah, made it look really, really nice with all the straw hats on there. It's gonna be great, okay? So I'm really pumped. Come on by, links and stuff below. All right, so this will be, I guess I'm just stuck wearing this for the rest of the review. So, all right, that's fine, we could do that. All right, this will be One Piece, chapter 1121 review. Yes, everybody, yes, give it up for 1121. We're still doing the ones. I was really excited last time because it's like, oh good, we're done with all of the excessive ones, and then I forgot how numbers worked. It's the problem I've had throughout my entire life. Okay, anyway, so it's the ebb and flow of the ages, the waves of the eras, the ebb and flow of the ages, yes. The cover page is Sexy Nami, but not just an ordinary Sexy Nami, a giant Sexy Nami. You know, if I had a nickel for every single time there's been a cover spread with a sexy giant Nami on it, I'd have exactly 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it is a little weird that it happened twice. The last one wasn't even that long ago. It was like a giant Nami licking an ice cream cone very sensually, and then here's Nami. It's actually a really cool cover spread because it's like Nami is in a box and she's all like giant, like stuck in the box and like posing, and then all the other Straw Hats are tiny and like hanging out around her, you know, also eating ice cream. So Oda has a thing as of late for giant Nami and ice cream. So just put that away. That might be important later. That might be what the One Piece is. Who knows? All right. So we continue where we left off with Saturn. Saturn has landed on the Great Eric, the ship of the Elbaf giants as they're sailing away. Luffy comes up with some very important information. He warns everybody on the deck of the ship, hey, the poison spikes on his arms, on his talons and stuff, don't touch them. They're really bad news, okay? You know what? I was thinking about doing a video on Luffy actually getting progressively smarter throughout the entire, series and everything like that. Because there was, like, when Luffy and Zoro were fighting against the Seraphim, and I just noticed this in the anime, there was a moment where they're fighting S-Hawk, and Luffy looks over at Zoro, and he has this moment of, like seriousness on Luffy's face, and he's like, hey Zoro, have you seen this guy's Devil Fruit ability before? And then I'm just sitting there like, wow, I don't know if that's the kind of line that Luffy would say at the beginning of the story, you know what I mean? Like, Luffy's actually thinking like, hey, you know, we've seen a lot of crazy Devil Fruits. Hey Zoro, did you know this guy's ability before or anything like that? Oh yeah, it's the Dice Fruit from, oh yeah, that guy at Baroque Works, I remember that guy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I don't know, maybe Luffy has gotten progressively smarter. He's like, hey everybody, poison, don't touch them, okay? So Saturn, of course, has multiple legs. He's like a Spider-Man kind of person. So he launches all of his legs. The giants take out their shields and bucklers and are like blocking the attacks, and they're like, whoa, Nelly! Yeah, that's bad news if those hit you. Make sure that doesn't hit you now, okay? You know, part of this, and I know there's a lot of stuff happening at Egghead right now, but part of this is Oda has to also show us how strong the giants are getting to Elbaf. You know, these are just one crew. These are the giant warrior pirates led by Dory and Bragi, right? They might also go through a whole thing where these giants are like a little older. Maybe there's another, because we know there's the new giant warrior pirates led by Hirudin, and like Girth and Rode and Goldberg and Stanson is on, and they're not here right now, okay? So we might find find out later at Elbaf, like, oh no, the giant warrior pirates, these giants are strong, but they're not the strongest. And then we got to like Othin and like Thor and like all of their, like the Royal Guard and stuff like that. I'm so pumped for Elbaf. But yeah, the giants with just like their normal looking bucklers and hockey are able to like block Saturn's attacks. And they're like, yeah, make sure that doesn't touch you now, right? So Luffy winds up to attack Saturn. I'm pretty sure in one big blow, Gear 5th Luffy would be able to knock Saturn because he's kind of like precariously perched on like the bow of the Great Eric. However, he looks down and sees Bonney. Now Bonney, upon seeing Saturn, obviously, because Saturn knows how to psychologically torture people. The first thing he did when he landed on the ship, it wasn't like spit poison at Luffy or try to destroy the ship. He was looking specifically at Kuma and Bonney and was like, Kuma, Bonney, I am here, I will kill you, like that kind of shit, right? And so Luffy looks down at Bonney, and Bonney is going back into the Gear 5th form, back into the Sun God form she had earlier. She could go into the form probably whenever, it's really exhausting, so, there's probably a set, just like Luffy, there's a set amount of times he can go into it without recharging by gorging himself on food, and Bonney can only probably go into it for a couple of seconds to deal like one attack, and then after that, it's gonna wear off. So Luffy looks down at her though, and I think Luffy was originally going to just like punch Saturn really hard and knock him off the ship. So instead, he changes the attack. So Saturn attacks Bonney, Luffy knocks one of his legs away, and then he's kind of looking down at her, and Luffy is going to be very inspirational to Bonney here. He's going to be very much like, hey Bonney, you be the one to, knock off the giant spider demon yokai monster, all right? It's what you need to do, right? It's in a similar vein like when Luffy was looking at like Momonosuke. It's just like, Momonosuke, quit being a crybaby, you gotta be the one, right? And also kind of Shirahoshi in that regard too. Luffy looks at people that are really scared and afraid, even Kobe. This goes all the way back to the very beginning of One Piece when he first met Kobe, and Kobe was a little crybaby, you know what I mean? Luffy's gonna be like, hey look, I could fight your battles for you, sure, but like, it would be better if you could fight your own battles, right? You gotta get courage, you gotta stand up for yourself, that kind of shit, right? So, Bonney manages to jump up, she's floating in the air in her Gear 5th form, and Luffy's like, that's it, Bonney, you show them what for, and it ties back into Bonney and Kuma's whole flashback, and, Bonney now knows about Ginny and everything from the memory bubble, so this is like the conclusion to Egghead. Like, we are wrapping this up very shortly, I would imagine. And like Vegapunk's message ends at the end of this chapter, right? Like we can pretty much be assured that that is the last line of the message. And so Bonney needs like a moment to be like, I have conquered my trauma. Screw you, Saturn! And just, Saturn at the end of this chapter is wrecked. I mean, he's pretty bad, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So message continues. I think we're in Logtown here. It looks kind of like Logtown. I was looking through, I learned my lesson, the whole thing with the Don Krieg pirates. I was looking through all of the crowd, and I don't think I see anybody that's in particular, but I think this is at Logtown. The architecture looks very similar. Vegapunk's message is playing there. A day of awakening is coming, where all the pressing secrets of the Void Century will be uncovered. You guys realize at this point, it's essentially Oda speaking through Vegapunk. I mean, I guess Oda speaks through all the characters because he's writing the characters. But in this case, translation, it's basically the day where we find out everything about the series' backstory and elusive mysteries is coming soon to a theater near you. That's kind of where we're going with this. How long that'll be, who knows, years, but it's coming, everybody. The final part of the story, it's happening now, right? We see a shot of Shirahoshi, we see a shot of Vivi. As Vegapunk's message says, we know that weapons technology that sank the world's continents are still in use today. So, makes sense to focus on Shirahoshi with that, because Shirahoshi, obviously, we know is Poseidon. We also focus on Vivi. There's a popular theory out there that the ancient weapons are not necessarily all objects. Like, we know Shirahoshi as an ancient weapon is a person. So the theory is, well, what if all of the ancient weapons were people? So Vivi might be Pluton or Uranus, and then you have the giant sky laser that nuked Lulusia. Maybe Eem is one of the ancient weapons, if we're going along with the idea of, like, persons. But then there's also the mention that the Mother Flame was the power source for that thing, so it's very possible that that thing might be a replica of an ancient weapon or something. But we certainly know 100% that Shirahoshi is Poseidon. Shirahoshi, as the mermaid princess, is an ancient weapon. Does that mean they're all the same kind of thing? Or does that mean maybe Vivi's gonna jump into Pluton and she's the pilot or something? I don't know. Vivi obviously holds a key to all of this, though, going back to her ancestor, Lily, right? We see a place that I did not think Oda was gonna show. It would have been perfectly fine if he didn't, and we could all understand why. We see Skypiea. Specifically, we cut to God's Shrine at Upper Yard. Remember the place where Eneru was hanging out, eating the apples? So on Upper Yard, you got Giant Jack. You have the beanstalk that goes through the island. At the top of Giant Jack is an island cloud, and that's where the shrine was. Not just where Eneru lived, but that was also where Gonfall lived before Eneru ousted him, and also even before that and everything like that. The gods of Skypiea would live there, you know, since antiquity, right? And so, yeah, the God's Shrine is still there, though, and we see God's guards, who are actually Wiper and the rest of the Shandorians. So that was really cool. I intend to make a video on Wiper. I've been planning on making a video on Wiper for like 5 or 6 years. I've just never gotten around to it. Because it's like, all right, I'll wait until maybe he's relevant to the story again. Well, this is the first time he's showed up in like forever. So if I'm ever going to make a video on Wiper, it might be now. We don't even see him like really clearly. He's like way in the background, but it's like, he's there. And we see Brahm and the other members of the Shandorians, like the warriors. We see Isa. Conus is there. So yeah, after the events of Skypiea, they essentially, the Shandorians basically take over Upper Yard as like their ancestral homeland. And Gonfall is back instituted as the ruler. We do not see Gonfall here. There's this big shrine. It looks like the shrine has been built up a little bit since the time of Eneru. As for Conus, she works at a Starbucks now. Not even kidding. She works at a cafe making pumpkin spice lattes for everybody, along with Loki. You know, that's what Conus does. Conus, it's just like she had this badass moment with the bazooka and everything, and now, yeah, she works at a Starbucks. She's a barista, you know. And then Isa is also there as well, and they're like delivering, you know, lattes. They're bringing their door dashing stuff over to the like God's Shrine and be like, here you go, Wiper. Here's some pumpkin spice lattes. Oh, I love these. Thank God for Usopp delivering these treats to Skypiea alongside Noland. Yeah, that was great. No, Usopp introduced rubber to the Skypians. Noland introduced pumpkins. That was the whole thing. We see Nola there too, actually. We see the snake, and so that's really cool. Obviously, they have no idea what's going on. They're not listening to the message because they don't have Den Den Mushi up there, and they're not even listening. So it would be interesting. I mean, it would have been fine if Oda just didn't show them. We could, you know, understand through context clues. But I think Oda maybe felt bad. He's like, well, I've drawn everybody else that was relevant in every major story arc in this manga, except the Skypiea arc. Okay, I'll draw them. I drew Gaimon a few chapters ago, and he didn't really do anything, so fine, here you go. Here's what the Skypians are up to right about now, right? They're having a nice little picnic. Okay, so along with that, and I think it's also relevant that we see the Skypians from going along with Vegapunk's message. Even though they are not themselves listening to the message, Vegapunk goes on now to say, there are those out in the world that have rare ancestry, okay, who are members of races that have been persecuted and slaughtered throughout the centuries, okay, due to some mysterious quirk of our history, all right? So he is referencing the Buccaneers and the Lunarians, and even the Third-Eyed tribe, okay? So I think it might have been a little relevant that Oda showed the Skypians there, because they also might be persecuted as well. We don't really see a lot of the Skypians down on the Blue Sea, and there might be a reason for that. I mean, yeah, we have a Rouge, but, like, who else? Really? Nobody else, honestly, is down there, and a Rouge is a pirate, right? So he's actively flaunting the laws of the world government, going out there and doing his own thing, right? So, yeah, there might be a reason that, you know, the Skypians and the Bjerkins and everybody don't move down to the Blue Sea normally, right? So when he mentions people that have been persecuted throughout history, we see Kuma on the deck of the Great Eric, and he's there, and we don't really know if this is him, like, if he's, because he can't move, his servos are all locked up or whatever, so he's not moving, and he's supposed to be 100% a robot right now, but he still has his, like prime directive to, like, save Bonney and everything like that, but we see him flash back to meeting Vegapunk, and being like, oh, Vegapunk is like, oh, you're a Buccaneer? That's crazy, and Kuma is like, yeah, what makes the blood of a Buccaneer so special? What's going on with this, right? So is this Kuma, like, remembering something? Because that would mean that, like, we already knew there's a little bit of Kuma still left in there, but that's something very relevant if he can remember something, right? So, you know, Buccaneers are a big one. Then we cut over to Sphinx Island. That's another one. I guess we didn't see what Marco was up to. Marco is just sitting in the village with everybody else, listening to the message on a regular Den Den Mushi. The Den Den Mushi has Whitebeard's mustache on it, because that's great. And once again, Marco remembers when Whitebeard told him about people living on top of the Red Line, the Lunarians. Now, I do not know if Oda included this just to show what Marco was up to, or just for the setup, because we're going to see King in the next panel. So maybe he's like, oh, we'll have Marco bring up the Lunarians, and then that'll be a segue into King, who's a Lunarian, who's also listening to the message. Or is this referencing that Whitebeard as well, or I guess maybe Marco, are members of a race that has been persecuted throughout history? You know, Whitebeard might have very well have been a Buccaneer too. You know, if being a Buccaneer is simply having giant blood in you, and if Joy Boy was a Buccaneer, so maybe not quite as big as a giant, but pretty sizable, like bigger than a normal human, Kuma and Whitebeard both fit that category. So if you want to say Whitebeard was a Buccaneer the whole time, I think that fits. Well, anyway, Marco's remembering the conversation he had with Pops. I don't really know how that conversation went, if they were just hanging out one night drinking, and Marco's like, hey, there's a lot of crazy mysteries in the world. Hey, Pops, you're old. What's going on with, like, that Red Line? Oh, the Red Line. I can tell you all about that. There were gods up there at some point. No shit. I'm like, yeah, actual gods. You know, so we cut to seeing King. King is all bandaged up, pretty badly beaten in some room. We don't see where he's at. He's not saying anything. He's also listening to the message, though, we can assume. And he's sitting there, he's like, oh, he's remembering the whole thing about him being a Lunarian. And it's like, oh, the government's looking for any information on the Lunarians. 100 million berries just for information. That is absurd, by the way. 100 million berries just for info on where a Lunarian is. That's how much the government wants them dead, okay? That's Luffy's second bounty that he got when he defeated a warlord. That's how much the government's willing to pay. It's a lot of money, okay? So, last time we saw King, he was in the Udon prison, and then he was attacked by Aramaki, by Green Bull, and Queen was also made super dead sexy by, you know, Aramaki's ability. So that was last time we saw King. He was not, like, as defeated as Queen was. He was able to stand up to the attack a little bit more, but he was really wounded and stuff like that. So I'm assuming this is where he's still at. Which, by the way, and also, we see Pudding in the next panel. Pudding being a member of the Third Eye Tribe. She's remembering, like, when she was made fun of as a child, like, oh, you got 3 eyes, right? So these are 3 examples of characters that have been made fun of and persecuted, and a lot of prejudice towards them just because of their race that they were born as. So Lunarian, Buccaneer, and Third Eye Tribe member, right? And so Oda's also showing us these characters specifically. I think King still has a part to play in this story. Pudding definitely does. Kuma does. And they're going to play a role in figuring out, like, what happened during the Void Century and everything like that. 3 ancient weapons, and we're also focusing on 3 particular races here. Maybe that might tie back into that as well. But I also just wanted to say, because Pudding is still in the jail cell, I guess, on the Saber of Zebek, on Blackbeard's flagship. Blackbeard is still not back on Hachinosu. They mentioned in the chapter he's still not there yet, so he's still, I guess, heading back after fighting Law and his crew, right? So I want to find it funny that even characters that are, like, in jail right now are still able to listen to the message. Like, even in Impel Down, Magellan was nice enough to be like, okay, I guess you guys should listen to the message too. You know, even on Blackbeard's ship, you know, Pudding is listening to the message. King is in prison. Be like, all right, well, that's just me. I mean, this is a big message. This is a big deal. You know, this would be like, hey, the Super Bowl's going on. Even though you're a prisoner, you know, okay, you can watch it. We're not that mean. You know, it's like, all right. But yeah, very, very important that we focused on King, Pudding, and Kuma there. So let me know how you guys feel about, like, maybe even Whitebeard being a Buccaneer too, or how this is all going to play into it. So cutting back to the ship now, we have Bonney getting ready for an attack. She's in the fighting stance. She's just like, I'm bringing you down, Saturn. And Saturn is like, oh, you are just a child, you know, mimicking the powers of the sun god like a parrot. This is foolish, you insects. You know, and, you know, some people actually brought this up because this is something Mars mentioned too a few chapters ago, as Mars was like, oh, you are merely a facsimile of the true power of the sun god. So people have brought this up as like, maybe they're just like, they refuse to believe that there can be two of them, right? They refuse to believe there can be two Nikas, so they have to be like, oh, you're just faking the power, okay? But another theory that's out there, and I really like this one, is that since Bonnie's abilities are based off of her imagination, one easy way to counter that is to make her question herself and be like, oh, you are not truly the sun god, you are just a fake, you're a phony, a big fat phony, Bonnie, you know, and then that'll make her question, like, I guess I'm not the sun god, aww, and then she, like, loses the power. But at any rate, she's not listening to the Gorosei anymore. She has a great line later in this chapter, it's actually coming up here in a moment, but as Luffy cheers her on and tears are streaming down Bonnie's eyes, you know, Luffy kind of like kicks away the rest of Saturn's feet, so, you know, Bonnie has a clear shot just to pummel him right in the face. And then we have an awesome double page spread. We actually get 2 double page spreads back to back, and there is a crap load of panels in each one of these, all right? So I think I'm just gonna go ahead with Luffy and Bonnie's scene, and then we'll go into all the other moments that are added to it for flavor and spice, okay? So Luffy and Bonnie go into their giant forms. Here we go. Liberating Nika Punch! So Bonnie just uses like a giant gear third, kind of like elephant gun sort of attack, where she hockeys that up and just punches Saturn like right in the center mass. And then Luffy uses a Gatling, like Red Hawk Gatling version of his punch, and that just punches a bunch of holes in Saturn. Like, Saturn gets turned into Swiss cheese at the end of this, literally. Like, giant hole, half of his face blown off, his horns blown off, his legs blown off, just boom, 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 just like a freaking machine gun just loading into him, right? And so he just gets reduced to just scraps. It looks like he just got blown apart by a bomb or something, and he just gets knocked off of the ship, and he goes to land in the water, okay? Like, fall back into the water. We don't see him hitting the water. We don't see him bubbling up out of the water, or what happens when you knock a Gorosei in the water. But I'm assuming we're about to find out pretty quick. Also, something else to bring up. Even if the Gorosei are weak to water, okay, which I don't think they are, but let's say they are, okay, because people are like, he had to jump on top of Peter in the last chapter. He didn't swim. It's just like, well, you have a choice between swimming or jumping off of a high point to reach your destination. Probably jumping off the high point would be faster, but whatever. Even if Saturn were to fall in the water and that does, like, I am weakened now, the Gorosei all have a shared summoning ability, which is also interesting on why, like, I don't know, Ethan, I guess Ethan is recovering from Atlas's explosion. They can just summon, you know, Mars back to the location or summon Saturn out of the water. That's also important to keep in mind. So I guess the only way to really solve that dilemma is if you knocked all 5 of them in the water at once, but then even then that might not work because you have Eam, and Eam is kind of the head of all this, so Eam might be able to just summon them all back to the room. So, you know, maybe that could happen there. Ooh, that would be an interesting way to get rid of them. Knock them all in the water. If the water weakens them, then they, like, the only way to save them is for Eam to summon them, but Eam would have to be, because Eam is still back in Marijois. So, and then that's how the Gorosei return. And that's how the Straw Hats are able to escape. That's not a bad idea. So anyway, as they're punching Saturn, like the ever-loving crap out of Saturn, okay? Remember that scene in JoJo's Part 3 in Stardust Crusaders where Jotaro is just pummeling the crap out of, I think it's the lovers, and it goes on and on, like, oh, it just goes on for like a minute. That's how I'm imagining this is going on with Saturn. I hope they take inspiration from that episode from JoJo in the anime, because this is phenomenal. But we also see a bunch of shots from Kuma and Bonnie's past, from Bonnie's perspective, because she knows everything that happened with Kuma from the memory bubble, right? So she's remembering Saturn's first encounter with Kuma at God Valley, like, you're a buccaneer, eh? Well, you can either live a slave or die. Those are your 2 options. There's a great scene where we see Kuma and Ginny, like, as a what-if scenario. Like, what if Kuma and Ginny were able to raise Bonnie, and we see them together, like, oh, Bonnie, we love you, thank God you were born, you know, and Ginny's there, and she's like, oh, I've been blessed in so many ways. I'm like, oh my God! Still getting, like, I thought Kuma's backstory was over, like, 20 chapters ago, still giving us the left hook on that one, Oda, damn! And, you know what this reminds me of? There was in Naruto, there was a cover page that had Naruto, like, what if he was just living with Minato and Kushina as like a normal family? Like, there's a scene at breakfast where Naruto is like a teenager and he has his parents in the kitchen, like Minato's reading the newspaper and Kushina's all angry because Naruto's like jumping out the window like, Naruto, eat your breakfast, come back here. And it's just like, this is what Naruto's life would have been like if he just had a normal family with his parents, you know? And that was just like, oh man, that was so sad. And then here's the same kind of thing right here, and it hits me in the same kind of way. So we also have Bonney, as she's punching Saturn, mentioning like, how dare you do all these things to my daddy and my mommy, and you know, Saturn, we flash back to Saturn bringing up like, I've experimented on Ginny, whoa, I'm evil. It's like, how dare you call yourself gods? Gods are real. And I'm one of them. Yeah, she doesn't say that, but he's like, gods are real, they do exist, and they are awesome, and yeah, you're a meanie. I'm punching you in the face. Right? Oh, man. And there's even a scene where he's like, Bonney, say hi to mommy, and like Ginny's playing with like a baby Bonney, and that actually might be a real memory. That actually might be a real memory, because remember, Ginny had Bonney, she was like maybe like 6 months old or something like that by the time that Ginny died of the sapphire scales. So that actually might be a very, very early core memory, because Ginny and Bonney did meet her mom, it's just that it was only for a few months and then she died. So that might be a memory that she still has. So that's something that maybe she unlocked there. That's really cool, right? And so anyway, as Saturn is getting pummeled off the ship, we see a scene with Iceberg, Judge, and Caesar. We see a shot of Weatheria, interestingly enough, and it looks like the Weatherian scientists, like, we don't see them listening to the message, but they look like Horridus is there, and he's looking really serious, so maybe they are listening to the message. Weatheria is not in the White Sea, like where Upper Yard and Skypiea is. It's in the White Sea. It's like one rung below. And the whole point of Weatheria, their whole operation, is they go down to the Blue Sea world and, like, help other people out. So I guess, well, we don't know if they have wings. We don't know. We know, actually, Horridus is a Bjerkan. He was born in Bjerka, but they're always wearing robes. We don't know if they have wings or whatever. And they don't live on the Blue Sea, but they do go down occasionally to like help out people with their weather and stuff like that. So we just see Horridus. That's really cool. And the weather wizards. So Vegapunk's message is there will be a reckoning on the day that those answers come. We must guard and protect yourselves. So this is basically kind of like Vegapunk saying, hey, the world is going to get thrown topsy-turvy really quick. You guys, like, every normal citizen even needs to be prepared. I made a video a little while ago where I was talking about, like, what if the citizens have to fight this great war? And a lot of people were saying, like, well, that's really kind of hard to believe because, like, everybody getting into the new world and fighting in the war. Okay, maybe not that. But, like, if the world does really go topsy-turvy the way that Vegapunk is talking about it here, it might be a situation where, yeah, like, the Galley Law shipwrights might not show up to fight in the new world, but they might have to defend their own island. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Nojiko and Genzo and the rest of Kokoyashi Village, they might have to fight back. You know, maybe Fuchsia Village gets attacked and the Goa Kingdom and Dadan and the Mountain Bandits have to fight back. You know, it might be something like that where we cut all over the world to see this epic war might be a world war, as it were. All over the planet, on every island, people have to fight to defend their homeland. I think that's kind of what Vegapunk's saying. By the way, that would be terrifying to hear at the end of this message. Like, yes, by the way, Quasar, you guys might want to get ready, because there might be a giant war, and you're going to have to protect your island, so, yeah, get ready. I don't know, buy a sword or something, I don't know. You know, okay. Judge and Caesar are still arguing. Horridus is there. No matter what happens, Quasar, I have faith in humanity's capacity for wisdom. I have faith in science. And this is where the message starts to get a little bit, like, garbled again. Like, Roger died 25 years ago. It's been 2 years since Whitebeard's death. A new age is heralded in by these old legends. You know, make sure to purchase Vegapunk coffee before the world ends. On sale now, a sponsor of our game show. Delicious, rich Vega coffee. Ready in 5 minutes or less. Dark roast or decaf. No in between. So as Vegapunk is talking about how there's certain people in this world that just will not be oppressed, that's when Saturn gets knocked off the ship and the giants are cheering, ah! And then Bonney is like, ah, I did it! And Luffy's on the ground laughing, ah, ha, ha, ha. And even, like, okay, we see a shot of Kuma, right? And Kuma's expression hasn't really changed, or has it? I don't know. Looking at this one panel of Kuma where Bonney is like, Luffy is like, good job, Bonney! Kuma looks like he's like his lips are curling upwards just a little bit, like it's It's a very subtle smile. Just a subtle smile, maybe Oda's going for here, right? Well, oh, by the way, while all this is happening, there was still a giant explosion. Like, this was happening kind of in bullet time, where as Luffy and Bonney were knocking Saturn off the side of the ship, the Sunny is still falling. It just took a little while, right? Like, ah! So here comes the Straw Hats. See Usopp and Chopper freaking out. Jinbei's like, I don't know how to control it, but okay, let's go. Zoro's getting ready to fight. Vegapunk's message continues. Such individuals are probably the closest to the truth. A coincidence, or did Roger set all this in motion? We see a shot, one of the very first shots of One Piece period, Roger stating, you know, you want my treasure, mateys? You can have it! My treasure is right there. I left everything I own in one piece. Now you just got to find it. No spoilers. And then, you know, here we go, 24 years later, Vegapunk spoiled it. We see Rayleigh just passed out drunk at Shaki's bar. He's just like, he's polished off his third bottle of fine South Blue whiskey, and he's out, okay? And then Shaki's like, okay, Ray, all right, I'll put you, you're gonna get cold if I put a blanket on you, okay? And Rayleigh's like, Vegapunk, Roger, crap. Dude, do you ever think when Rayleigh is, like, really out, like, drunk out, like he's passed out on the floor of the Shaki's bar, he just murmurs to himself, like world-shattering information, like, he's like, oh, Roger, you know, what'd you do with the egg? Oh, Roger, the ancient weapon is located here. Oh, Roger, the Oro Jackson is located at this exact geographical location. It's like, do you ever think that happens? I wonder. Okay, so obviously as Vegapunk's winding down here, the message is going to one particular location. You know, last chapter, Vegapunk said something like, I think you can all see where I'm going with this, right? And now I think I got that. He's going to, of course, the title of the series, The One Piece. So Vegapunk says, unfortunately, there's no guarantee that the treasure Roger found will be found again by the person Joy Boy intended. So Vegapunk's talking about, like, yeah, Roger found this. For some reason, he didn't tell anybody about it, but the treasure, the One Piece, is still out there somewhere, right? Waiting for someone to find it. But Vegapunk voices concern that, like, you know, Joy Boy obviously wanted a particular person to find it. Well, that person may find it, they may not. Somebody else might find it, right? So that's all the pirates on the pirate island are really getting excited and riled up over that. They're like, yeah, we want to set sail. We're going to find the One Piece finally. Let's do this. Like, it's just kind of like at the Cross Guild a while ago, where Buggy, our great Captain Buggy, you know, we salute him, was firing up all the members of Kalibali Island, like, just in the Cross Guild. Like, let's do this. Let's remember why we set out to sea to begin with. The reason every pirate sets out to sea is to find the damn One Piece. Most just give up when they realize it's really hard to find it. It's like, let's do it though. Let's find it. So, like, this is what Vegapunk is doing to the entire world. There might be people that, like, there might be random civilians that might be like, screw it, let's go find the One Piece, right? I'm tired of being a radish farmer. You know, I want to go find the One Piece, damn it, right? And so all the pirates on Pirate Island are excited. It's like, isn't Teach back yet? We want to go, you know? We see all of the different Four Emperors locations. We see Hachinosu, we see the Red Force. We don't see Shanks, we just see the Red Force itself, but they're like, hey, boss, you're drinking too much. Shanks is also drunk, like, I'm not drunk, shut up. It is interesting that all the former members of Roger's crew, I guess except for Buggy, we'll see in a moment, are drinking to, like, you know, like, there was something I feel like there's maybe a modicum of guilt about this. Like, maybe not so much for Shanks. Shanks is probably just remembering what Roger told him. Remember, Shanks was crying as they returned from Laugh Tale, and Roger told Shanks something, and he started to bawl. So maybe Shanks is remembering that, whatever, you know, Roger told him, because I don't think Roger told Buggy that at all. So Buggy might not be aware. Rayleigh was there. He was at Laugh Tale, and maybe the decision they made wasn't the best decision, or it actually caused a lot of death and troubles in the world, and that's why he's getting drunk. I don't know. But anyway, Shanks is like an angry drunk right now, and then we see Kalibali Island, we see Empty Bluffs Island with Buggy, and, you know, Chairman Buggy, there's no doubting your greatness now, let's go! We see Mihawk, we see Crocodile just kind of silently watching the message, and then we don't see Buggy, but Buggy's just like, huh? What? My greatness? Oh, yeah, I guess. Let's go do it, right? We see Marine HQ, where even the Marines are like, there's no way we'll just stand by on this. All right, Marines, let's mobilize every Marine in the world and find the One Piece. We could have done it this whole time. Everyone's like, well, no, who's going to protect all of the civilians if we do that? You know, so yeah, that actually has been a theory for a long time, many years. Like, why don't the Marines just get together and go to Laugh Tale? Like, yeah, it might be hard to find, but if you put every Marine on the job, I mean, they probably will find it. And it's like, well, number one, Laugh Tale is not easy to get to. It's probably under the water, and even under the water, it's hard to access, okay? There might be weird weather patterns around it. It's not easy just to sail to the location. If it was easy to get to Laugh Tale, somebody else other than Roger would have been managing to do it in the last 900 years, right? And also, though, they have a job to do. Their job is to not find treasure. Their job is to protect the innocent. I mean, ostensibly. If they're allied with the world government, if they pay their taxes in the heavenly tribute, then they get protection. That's the way this whole thing works, right? Yeah, okay. So, last page of the chapter, Vegapunk's message ends with, there's no stopping this now. The fate of this world will be decided by whoever finds it. The One Piece! It all depends on who finds it, right? And this is like, you see the shouts coming off of Egghead as Vegapunk is saying this. So, this is like putting a whole new dimension on finding the One Piece. This is not just like, whoever finds the One Piece is king of the pirates. Great, you know, Luffy wants to find it, Kaido wanted to find it, Big Mom wanted to find it. No, Vegapunk is laying it out straight up to the entire world at once here. Whoever finds the One Piece, whatever it is, because Vegapunk doesn't know, Vegapunk's like, whoever finds this has the fate of the entire planet. Hold on. The fate of the entire planet in their grasp. And they can either crush it or they can let it flourish. You know, like that, like Vegapunk's kind of laying out those stakes here. These are some thick stakes. These are some thick with like 16 C's stakes. These are some really bloody red stakes right here, okay? Yeah. Oh. Anyway, last page. We have a collage of a bunch of different characters in One Piece. We have the four emperors. We have Shanks, Luffy, Blackbeard, and Buggy. Buggy's like crying. He's like, oh god, what have I gotten myself into? But then we also have a bunch of other characters. And I don't know if this is the idea that like Oda is basically telling us that like, yeah, somebody on this last page, on these last double page spreads, that's going to be the people that are going to find the One Piece, or that's the person that's like contenders to find the One Piece, right? We all know Luffy's going to find it because he has to be king of the pirates, right? But Buggy's also there too. I'm okay with Buggy finding it first and then Luffy getting it. That'd be really funny. But we also see Akainu, we see Dragon, we see Sabo, we see Eam, we see Kobe, we see Kuzan, and we see Saint Figarland Garling, who's Shanks' dad most likely, and we see another character. Not Shanks, not Garling, a shadowed silhouetted figure that is wielding a sword remarkably similar to Shanks and Garling. Shanks has Griffin, Garling has a sword that's very similar to Griffin, and this sword looks also very similar. This character, I think, is pretty obvious who it is, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people think it's a dude. Nah, that's Shanks' hot sister right there. Either that or my second guess is Wang Zhi! Or I guess it could be Shanks' brother, but come on. Oda, if you have the choice between drawing Shanks' hot brother or Shanks' hot sister, go with the sister, please. You know, like, anyway. So, out of all of these people, oh, break next week, by the way, especially after a chapter like this where the message basically is over, right? So, I think a couple more chapters of Egghead left. Even if the next chapter is the last one, I could see it. Maybe one or two. Anyway, out of all of these characters, who is the worst possible option to find the One Piece? I guess Eam. I guess Eam would be the worst. We don't even know exactly what Eam would do. I feel like if Eam got control of the One Piece, Eam would just maybe, like... Well, I don't know. I was going to say Eam just continues on the control that they've had on the world since the Void Century, but Vegapunk talks about it like the war is still going on. So the war is like to find the One Piece. That is when the war will end, I guess. So if Eam finds the One Piece, then the war is over and Eam truly wins, and then it might be even worse. So I guess Eam is the worst option. Akainu's also there as like representing the Marines. I'll be honest with you, if it came down to a choice between Eam finding the One Piece and having complete carte blanche to do whatever, or Akainu and the Marines having the same reign, I mean, both of those aren't great options, but I'd go with Akainu, all right? Because Akainu would, I mean, he would definitely wipe out anybody that he deemed as evil or a pirate, which isn't good. You know, just like everybody who's a pirate and just the world dies if it's some kind of power like that. Dude, I don't know, man. The way Vegapunk is talking about the One Piece here, he's talking about it like it's some kind of supernatural god power or some shit. Like, you know, the fate of the world depends on who finds it. What the hell is this thing? Is it like the power, like it's like a wish? You get like one wish from a genie or some shit? Like, what is this crap, right? You know, anyway. But, you know, if I had to choose, I guess I'd pick Akainu over Eam. You know, it's not much better, but it's a little better. I mean, he would at least still take care of like the citizens. It would just be very authoritarian, I feel. Kobe would be fine. Kuzan, Garling, no. Sabo and Dragon, the revolutionaries getting their hands on it would be fine. Shanks' hot sister would probably be fine. Shanks having it would be good. I actually don't know if Shanks found the One Piece, what he would do with it. I feel like Shanks would just be like, all right, I found the One Piece. All right, I'll shelve it for another 20 years and somebody else will stumble upon it maybe. I think Buggy and Luffy are the best options. I think they're the front runners, to be honest with you. And then Blackbeard, obviously, got to make sure he doesn't get his hands on it either. So the worst options would probably be Akainu, Eam, and Blackbeard, with Akainu probably being the best out of that three. I feel like if Blackbeard had control of it, the world would just fall into chaos. Like, it would just be a might makes right kind of world where it's like if you're strong, you survive, and if you're weak, you die, and that's just the way it goes. Like, the entire world is basically the law of piracy. And then Eam would probably be way more restrictive, way more like Lord Ruler with it, if you've ever seen, like, the Mistborn series. Kind of like that. You know, very authoritarian and oppressive in that regard, and then Blackbeard's would be more chaotic and anarchy kind of reigns sort of thing, right? But yeah, I mean, like, if these are all the contenders to find the One Piece, I'd say most of them, like Shanks, Luffy, Buggy, Dragon, Sabo, you know, that's 5. Kuzan, I think, would be okay. Kobe's, that's like 7, are pretty good options here, right? Okay? Well, anyway, that was a wild chapter at the very end here. We got the end of the message. We got a lot of stuff here with Bonney and her. I think this was pretty much the chapter for Bonnie's resolution to her, like her character thread in this arc, you know, kind of thing there. So that was really nice to see. They defeated Saturn. I mean, did they really defeat Saturn? No, I'm sure he'll be back. People have been saying, like, whoa, what if Saturn is, like, kicked out of the Gorosei for this, and maybe Eam makes somebody else a Gorosei? I mean, maybe. If Eam has that power, I can assume he could do that. Like, I'm taking my power back, Saturn. I will now make Saint Charlos the new Gorosei. Oh, that would be awful if Charlos had actual terrifying yokai power. That would actually be devastating. Would he be smart enough to use it, though? That would be the thing. He'd be kind of dumb, though. That's the thing. Well, anyway, that's the chapter. Hope you all enjoyed. Game show host Teching here. And yeah, Saturday, July 20th, TechoCon at the David L. Lawrence Convention Center in beautiful downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 8 p.m. panel 3. Teching 101 will be hosting the One Piece Trivia Extravaganza. Come on down. We'll have free candy. I have to buy candy. All right, later, everybody. Teching signing out.